Greetings to all. I am Misthi and I will be talking about Antonio Gramsci, one of the most original and influential Marxist thinker of 20th century. As the founding member of Italian Communist Party, his works were not limited to the traditional economic of Marxist. Instead, he focused more on the role of society, cultural, education, intellectuals, and he believes that all these factors helps a lot in maintaining and challenging the power structure. His ideas are so relevant today that even in political theory, education, or cultural aspect, we can have the traces and examples of Antonio Gramsci's ideas. All these ideas of Antonio Gramsci's are compiled in a notebook called the Prison Notebook, which he wrote during the time of imprisonment under Benito Mussolini. All this notebook lack a formal structure as they were written under difficult situations and had kind of censorship, and it's very difficult to decode the kind of philosophy and historical evidences that this notebook gives, but it helps a lot in understanding Antonio Gramsci's idea about Marxism and socialism, because this particular book is written during the time of failure of labor movement in Italy. In this notebook, we'll understand his idea about cultural hegemony and education, intellectuals, how they help in society and maintaining the ruling power. We'll understand everything, and we'll also understand the analysis of Italian history that helped Antonio Gramsci to shape whatever his political thoughts are. First, let's start with the cultural hegemony, the theory of cultural hegemony that is the most popular and very influential in the prison notebooks. This idea says that the ruling class maintains and controls not just through political and economic means, but through cultural and ideological dominance. He gives this idea of hegemony versus coercion, where he argued that true power lies in winning the consent of the governed. The state who uses force when needed is good, but the state who maintains power through cultural institutions, through manipulations, are more good, and they'll have a rule over for more time. He gave the examples of cultural institutions like media, religion, education that helps in shaping the people's common sense, and through this, the ruling party gets the confidence of the people, and they can have a great rule. We can see in today's Indian politics as well. We have examples of how ruling party or any party manipulates people or uses the cultural factor to get into the power. To explain this cultural hegemony, Gramsci also gave an example of the theory of meritocracy, in which we believe that the power or the merit is to be focused or to be solely based on the basis of individual efforts. But in all these things, we ignore the inequalities, the natural inequalities. So this theory of meritocracy is a kind of cultural hegemony which believes that only power concentration is good because it's based on the efforts of an individual. But Gramsci criticized this whole idea, and later on he talks about the idea that intellectuals have a great impact in the society because they helps in redefining the concepts and challenge the traditional ideas. He says that in prison notebooks, he divides intellectual in two types. First is the traditional intellectuals like scholars, priests, professionals who see themselves as independent from ruling class but often serve as status quo. Means they don't have any input in economy or state, but they are still intellectual. They are still affluent class in the society, and they see themselves as different from state, but still somewhere they have some kind of impact or influence in the governing policies and the laws which they made. And another is the organic intellectuals, thinkers who emerge from a particular section of the society, who represent the particular section, for example the working class, the marginalized. And all these thinkers who, or these intellectuals who emerge from these kind of society, they know well about the society. They help in articulating the experiences and needs of their class and challenge the dominant ideologies, the prevalent ideologies. They break the shackles of the normal ideas, and they bring new ideas. They challenge the power, and in this example, to support this, he gives the example of Catholic Church, who is considered as the traditional intellectuals, who consider themselves different from the state, but still it helped a lot in shaping the intellectual discourse and maintain the hegemony in Italy. And in organic intellectuals, we can see that how in India also several reformers came from a particular section. Dr. Ambedkar came from a particular section, and several reformers, I can say, who represented their society and came with a new idea. They abandoned the previous normative ideas that prevalent, and broke the shackle and bring their new ideas and gave a new theory. Then Gramsci talks about the role of education and cultural formation. He believes that education plays a major role in forming a culture, in forming an ideology, and the one who is educated, the one who is intellectual, will break the shackles, will bring a new form of ruling power, and there is a full transformation of the society. In the education section, he says that education plays a central role in maintaining and challenging cultural hegemony. He criticized the traditional education system and for reinforcing the existing power structures and promoting the dominant ideology as universal, or I can say neutral. In this, he says that the traditional education system don't have a scope of reforming, they don't have a scope of critical evolution or thinking, and this traditional education restricts an individual from thinking beyond the scope, because in this kind of structure, the one who is studying, the one who is student, is in a passive form. He'll just understand what's being taught to him. He or she don't have any capability to question the things. But he wants individual to be intellectual enough to have the caliber of questioning. That's why he stresses on the idea of transformative education. He calls for an education system that encourages critical thinking and awareness, empowering the working class who can challenge the hegemony. He wants someone, intellectual from the society, who can come and challenge the hegemony of the ruling class, who can challenge the already set standards and forms, because a new set of new set of forms are being required. So he suggests a new type of education, that is transformative education, in which the individual is not just in a passive form. He's not just learning what's being taught, he's also questioning the things what's being taught to him. And in this example, we can see that how Britishers came to India. He not only just used power, he didn't use they don't use power. Instead, they used the manipulative power. They manipulated the masses. They said that they are governing them just for the sake of their development. So this we can see that how they use the cultural aspect of the society, how they manipulated it, and how without using the force they came into the ruling, they became the ruling power. And how beautifully, I can say, how beautifully they brought their own system of education, the Macaulay's education, which is a passive form of education, in which the individual is being taught about the Western culture, the Western history, but the Indian aspect and the Indian society is being completely neglected. The one is not allowed to question, the one is not allowed to have a critical thinking and critical analysis. So it's very clear with the example of India, that how education plays a really important role in having ruling class. A passive individual can never question the already set norms. So we really need a transformative education system. Gramsci also gave the notes on Italian history. His reflection of Italian history are key in his analysis of how cultural hegemony develops and functions. He studied the failures of Italian working class and how the revolution failed. And in contrasting to that, the Russian revolution developed, but this revolution failed. He gave his idea of passive revolution. He said that he described this term and said that Italy's unification under the elites were based on just elites, and the major section of the society, the working class, were not included in that. Thus, the revolution or the unification failed brutally, because the society, which is made up of a working class as a majority, were not represented. They were not understood well. But the elite section became the ruling class, and thus the labor revolution failed. In this part one of the prison notebook, or understanding the Antonio Gramsci's idea about political theory, we have only three major themes of understanding cultural hegemony: the role of intellectuals, which he divided into two forms, and then the education aspect of Gramsci. This is the with the video, and I can say that Antonio Gramsci's prison notebook offers a really powerful framework in understanding the interplay of society, cultural ideology, and how power works. His concept of cultural hegemony, organic intellectuals, and transformative education system really have a great insight for both academic study and practical activism. It's really important to understand that cultural hegemony is still a part, and still a part, or I can say the big part of Indian politics, and anywhere in this country, we can say anywhere in the world, we can see the ideas of cultural hegemony. We can see the role of intellectuals and how a transformative education is really important to break the to break the already set forms and bring the new forms. So this is with the video. Thank you everyone.